Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode. I have a lovely guest for you today. I was introduced to her by one of my clients, and we just hit it off in our first little chat. And so I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Her name is Wendy Harrup. She owns the Phineas Wright House. It's a historic bed and breakfast on a small New England flower farm. By bringing the experience from her 30-year career as a wedding planner into everyday entertaining, she desires to have every guest feel welcomed, anticipated, and celebrated. She creates and curates opportunities for women to say yes to themselves through luxury culinary trips in the US and France, workshops and retreats in her 200-year-old barn and farm stays at the B&B. She's the host of the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, where she shares conversations with fabulous women incorporating this self-care practice in big and small ways. Wendy, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Candy. I'm delighted to be here.
I want to hear all about how you made that evolution. The evolution from event planner to host, but also this three words that you have in here to help people feel welcome, anticipated, and celebrated. There's something really powerful in that.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting to listen to my own bio and think, oh my gosh, yay, I'm doing it. It's so exciting because as a 25-year-old woman, when I wanted all those things, to now being a 57-year-old woman who has all those things. And in hindsight, of course, we see all the beautiful dots connecting.
Mhm.
But as that was happening, it was not, I have a goal and this is how I'm going to get here, and it's going to take 5 minutes and I'm ready for it. It was definitely a windy road, and it has been one yes after the other.
Mm.
And then the ones that stayed yeses keep their beautiful space in the bio, and the ones that I'm ready to complete with or sounded really fun, but then when I tried them, even after a little course correcting, they weren't in alignment for me, then those fell off the bio too. So it is a graceful unfolding of how I got here.
Cool. There is something about that word yes, and I know you use it very intentionally. The question that I've got might sound a little bit odd, but how do you hear the yes?
Mm.
And then how do you know internally that it stays a yes?
That's such a great question. And I believe I did not answer your original question about being welcomed and anticipated and celebrated. So I'm going to answer both.
Okay.
So those were words that really resonated in during my wedding planning career. I was a wedding planner for 30 years, and it was something that I thought was really important to guide guests through the unfolding schedule of events in ways that didn't feel really structured. If you're at a wedding and you feel like you're in conversation and then they're always stopping your conversation with your friends to have you look at something. And so we always wanted to be really mindful of that. So as I transitioned out of wedding planning and hosting people in my home, I wanted to be very intentional about what their experience was going to be. And I knew as a wedding planner, you can't really just start that a week before. So it's definitely a mindset and a practice. And because I do that every day in anticipation of somebody pulling up my driveway, I get to practice it all the time. I always have 2 bottles of champagne chilling in the refrigerator. So when someone comes, announced or not, I can welcome them. They feel like I anticipated their arrival, even though I didn't know that they were coming. And we can definitely celebrate, even if it's a Tuesday and we're just celebrating that you found my address or that I happen to be home instead of just the big white dress kind of celebrations. So
Hmm.
I'm wanting to normalize this level of intention and attention to detail so that everyone that encounters me feels like a bride, feels like the girl of the hour. So that's just really fun to me.
Yeah, I love that.
Yay. And then
There's,
my,
sorry, there's
right,
just
please,
there's something in there
please.
too. Like 50 years ago, that was sort of the highlight of a female's life. To
Exactly.
be the bride. It was really the only day that she got to be the center of attention. It's
Mhm.
kind of a sad life to think
Super sad.
like it was like you got one little drip 50 years
Yeah.
ago of being really seen and celebrated and appreciated. And I think it's pretty amazing that you kind of keep that going. Like it can happen
Mhm.
any day. It can just be a happy accident that somebody shows up at your front door, or it can be somebody who made a reservation that's been looking
Mhm.
forward to being your guest for months and months and months, right?
Exactly. And I think that it's interesting that you say that. I think that could be what all this pressure is about this day being perfect. Of course, magazines and social
Hmm.
media doesn't dissuade our desire for perfection, but it feels like there's a lot writing on everybody's experience, let alone the bride's experience. To your beautiful question about the yes, we were chatting briefly before you hit record about our morning practice. We both have a morning practice, and that is a time that I dedicate to myself, to my alignment, my connection with the divine. And I have found that I can really practice what yes feels like to me. You asked, what does it sound like, or how do I hear a yes?
Hmm.
I really feel a yes. My human design is a generator. My authority is emotional. I I rely on my feelings. And so what my practice has been is not to necessarily identify what the yes feels like, but to trust myself
Hmm.
that that yes is for me, that
Right.
it's not too good to be true, or I'm not worthy of it, or whatever other things are filling my journal. But that's how I feel my yes. And we know mastery comes from repetition. So I keep practicing my yes, and I also give myself permission to course correct, and that I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes with planning events. I'm going to make mistakes with money. I'm going to make mistakes parenting. I'm just going to make mistakes.
Hmm.
And so calling myself out instead of requiring perfection of myself, which I think, is kind of a um unfortunate side effect of 30 years in wedding planning. Like that there is this high level attention to detail. And if I start to think that I should be better at something than I am, and I remind myself I'm doing the best that I can with the tools that I have, and I'm going to get another shot at it tomorrow.
So the yes part, it's a body yes. And I know everybody has their way of sort of getting their inspiration, right? Some people hear it, some people see it, some people it's a feeling of expansiveness or whatever. And I think that that is something that's sort of underrated and underpracticed, right? Like depending on who you are, you may people please and say yes to things you don't want to do. You may say no to lots of things just because you're scared. But to actually sort of fall back on this place of self trust where you can decide for yourself, is this my yes or is it a yes? You know, like there's a difference between the word yes and your actual yes. And can we talk a little bit about your morning practice and sort of how you came into doing that? There's a piece here that is really interesting in that there's this underlying theme for so many powerful women that I meet. They have this early morning practice that they do. Can you tell me more about yours, and if you're willing to share,
Oh, my
tell me
pleasure.
about it. What do you do? How did you come to it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I did not have one. And I was in a small mastermind with some women that were talking about starting one. And I said to them, I could never do that. And I obviously we can lobby for our limitations all day long, but I just thought that will never work. First of all, at the time I was married and our daughter was young. We adopted her from China. And so we had a family bed. So I thought, well, first of all, I can't do that.
Hmm.
And I have dogs and I live on a farm, all these things. So my friend asked me a great question. She said, well, if you could, what would it look like? And I said, oh, well, I would get up without an alarm so I didn't wake up all those people in my bed. I
Hmm.
would go downstairs and make coffee and magically not wake up one of my dogs, who would then bark, who would then wake up the people in the bed, which would negate my morning time.
Hmm.
And then I would take my coffee into the library of our house. I live in an antique house, so it has some formal rooms. So I would take it into the library and I would pray and I would meditate and I would journal and I would read. And I had not read a book besides The Story's Guide to Raising Chickens and International Toddler Adoption. Those were the only two books that I had read in the several years since buying this property. And wouldn't you know it, the next morning, I woke
Hmm.
up and it was still dark. And I looked at my watch and it was 4:45 and I felt rested and nobody else was up. I was like, I'm going to try it. And I went downstairs and I made coffee and both dogs stayed asleep. And I went into the library. I was like, okay, now what? Like, how do you
I said I was going
manifest
to do
it?
all these things.
And like I said, I don't even know what book to pick up because I haven't been reading. So I grabbed a journal and I just started writing about this feels really special that I just said these words the day before and now I'm having this experience and I really felt like this is a divine appointment and of course, and I don't want to do it wrong. I'm sure I wrote that in my journal, which, makes for a lot more journal entries. So just, silly enough, it felt really great to have all of this time. And then at 7 a.m., I woke up my daughter, got her ready for school, did my chicken chores, did all the things. And I felt like I had 2 whole days in one day. And then I was hooked and I
Right.
had a Fitbit with a silent alarm that I did not know how to turn off. And I set it for 4:45
Yeah.
and it has been absolutely transformational. If I had to choose one thing that I've done in the last 5 years that has got me on the trajectory to have that bio you read, it's implementing a morning practice,
Mm.
which, sounds really early. And someone might think, oh my gosh, I can't do that. But there's something about doing something that's uncomfortable and unfamiliar and then getting the desired result that makes it far less uncomfortable than it used to. Because now my commitment to myself is real. And I love that I have that time and space to pour into me so
Yeah.
that when my daughter wakes up, she gets the very best version of me.
And you get the very best version of you too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I
I love
do.
that. And it's funny, there's that 4:45 time. I don't wake up that early for my morning routine, but every day I wake up at 4:48 and I
Oh,
look at the
that's
clock and I go
amazing.
4:48. Isn't that interesting? And it's
Huh.
happened for years. And then I get up early, but not that early. But it makes me wonder if there's not something that happens in the world. Like you're 4:48, you're in a different time zone from me, but there's something about
Right.
that time that is, like you said, it's the divine appointment. So often we hear that life is busy. I don't have time to do that stuff. I can't read. I can't journal. I can't pray. I've just got too much on the go. And yet we've got probably an hour a day to scroll on social media. And so it just kind of shows us that our priorities might be a little bit skewed. I kind of wonder what would happen if more women just woke up at 4:45 and had their divine appointment with their higher self, with their God, with themselves, and just allowed, I don't know, it's got this feeling of luxuriate,
It really
like you sit
is.
and you relax and there is no rush. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything, but you do the things that make you feel full and whole. I think there's a
Yes.
movement there somehow.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a beautiful one.
Mm.
And there are some boundaries that I've had to implement that support that practice. So I go to bed very early,
Yeah.
but that's okay because I enjoy my morning time. So it's worth it to me. And if I'm doing something fun, if I'm in Paris and, obviously I'm with clients, they're not going to go to bed at 8:30 like I
What?
am.
Why the heck
Right.
not?
Right. So I do a couple of things. I either decide the night before
Hmm.
that I'm not going to get up. So I make that decision. But most times, even if I don't keep my same schedule, if I'm not able to get up at 4:45 because we've been drinking champagne till midnight, I keep my same routine.
Okay. Interesting.
So I just get up when my body needs to get up. And if I'm in France, I also don't have my farm chores. So my schedule is different as well.
Mhm.
So there's so much grace in this practice as well, because the the poignant piece of this that makes it successful is not because of what time my clock goes off. It's that my commitment to myself is real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that you've given yourself a little space, right? Like less inputs, less consumption, more time for reflection. And to actually know what you want to say yes to, like sort of full circle to what are you saying yes to, right?
Mhm.
Mm. Really makes me think because I've got a morning routine as well. Mine has flexed over the years, but I usually get up around 5:15, 5:30. My husband thinks I'm crazy. But every time I get up, I think to myself, this is my favorite time of the day.
Mhm.
My coffee is already made. I pour my cup. I walk out to my she shed. This time of the year, it's already daylight, and the little animals are starting to be alive. The birds are singing, the ducks are swimming in the backyard, and it is truly my favorite time. And I started it as just a way, like a lifeline, because I was so stressed out. And I didn't have any time for myself. And so that's how I made time for myself. And it is, I may sleep a few hours less, but I feel far more refreshed because
Mhm.
sometimes sleep isn't what you need, right? Like you need
Exactly.
to recharge and connect with yourself and your soul. That's the thing that makes you feel alive, not whether you had, 7.2 hours of sleep, but are you excited about your day?
Mm,
Do you remember who you are? Those are things that are important. I love
I
that.
agree. And that's such a beautiful time to set intentions of
Mm-hmm.
how you want the day to go. And that practice, it's not just saved for the morning. Sometimes my days require me to have a practice in the middle of the day where I know I need to meditate. I need to quiet my mind if I'm feeling stressed about something. But getting that out of my body through the journaling process has allowed my meditation practice to be more effective because it's not I can quiet my mind if I've emptied it a bit onto the paper. So
Right.
that's been really helpful. And it's also nice to model for my daughter because I can say if we're having a conversation and I don't feel like I'm showing up as my best self, I can excuse myself from the conversation and meditate. And I am showing her that I have tools and I use my tools. And
Mm-hmm.
she has tools as well.
And then you've got the awareness too. Like
Yeah.
this is what I need. Um, this feels like it's a really good place to then say, before we hit record, you were talking about how you create space for your guests at your B&B. Can you talk a little bit more about that? This idea of having retreats where the person actually feels refreshed after they've given their retreat.
Yes. Yes. I love holding space for women who are holding space for themselves. So I do have people that come do solo retreats, whether they are sitting in a question about a transition they're ready to make, or if they are wanting to make plans for the year ahead, or if they're, wanting to enjoy beautiful New England goodness, they come for that as well. But I also host retreat leaders. So my property is about 30 acres and it's wooded and there are meadows and a pond and lots of open space in nature, as well as my barn that can hold, different workshops and such. So I've had people host their retreats here on the property. Their guests stay at a local hotel, but then the retreat facilitator, she gives to her clients or her attendees all day long. And then at the end of the day, she comes into the house and then I get to pour into her.
Mm.
So each retreat, even if you were hosting a 1 day retreat, it automatically comes with 2 nights at the bed and breakfast. So you arrive before, you just get to ease in to that process, knowing that a wedding planner was preparing the space for you. So you're good. And you can really prepare your heart and your mind and your nervous system for what you're about to present and give to your people. And then you don't have to rush off to the airport or drive back home or whatever you're doing. You also have this built-in retreat for you that is going to allow you to return refreshed.
Mm, that's amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
And I love that there's so much nature with your place and also just the care and attention that you put in to your guests. I think of the number of times that I've been to conferences. I haven't gone to many retreats in the last few years, but the number of times I've gone to conferences and I've come home and I've really enjoyed it. And yet I am like strung out, you know? But
Right.
this just sounds so refreshing and so human and so rejuvenating. I love it. Mm,
I'm so happy that it resonates with you because I really feel like we need to give ourselves ample space to have these experiences. So even if I'm hosting a floral design workshop in my barn, it's 4 hours long because I want to create a pattern interrupt. I want you to feel like you have come and you've had an experience and you've had a chance to neutralize and almost forget in a beautiful way what you were thinking about as you pulled into the property and
yeah.
to really just be present. And that just takes a while. So it's why my trips to France are a week long. It's why a 1 day retreat is you're really away from your own space for 3 days because I just feel like this pattern interrupt is very important to the way we integrate these new things that we're experiencing.
Yeah. And so many of us, our nervous systems are already kind of on high alert, right? And so to have a place where you can decompress, that is probably one of the biggest solutions to many of the challenges that we have these days. People who are just too busy, too strung out, too stressed out, they're not able to show up as themselves. They're not able to even find their best thinking. But to have this sort of grace, this grace of space and time, allows them to maybe remember that who they were as well, right?
It's such a gift.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's so necessary and so needed. And I'm so delighted to be a part
Mm.
of a solution.
Yeah.
It
So
feels
before
good.
we wrap up, I have got to find out more about these France trips that you have because they sound so amazing. And if I'm fascinated by them, then the listeners are going to be too. So tell us about the trips that you do to France.
It's my pleasure. So I basically have taken my 30 years of experience as a wedding planner, and I use all of that to create these magical experiences. So for a wedding, right, you take into consideration what the client wants, but you pull together different vendors and collaborators to create a magical experience for your couple that are getting married. So in this instance, I pull together amazing collaborators, all women that are saying yes to themselves, many of them expats that now live in Paris or in Normandy or Versailles or Southwest France when I go, but they have said yes to themselves.
Mm.
So it's adding to a theme. And then the trip itself, I've attended to every single detail. So you get to choose which airport you're flying out of, and you take care of your plane ride. But I have a service that greets you at the door of the plane, and they whisk you through the airport right through passport control, right into the waiting, beautiful car that's going to take you to the gorgeous hotel. And I've taken care of all of these details, all of the meals, all of the lodging, all of the transportation, all of the magical, fabulous events. My trips are culinary centric because I love food.
Hmm.
So that's one focus that is the majority of my trips. But for 2026, I'm doing some new trips that have a different focus that I'm very excited about. But this is really just a time and space for women. I only take women and I only take four. So
Wow.
we are very small. It's very high touch. It's very intentional. And we do a lot of these cooking classes in the apartments of these women.
Love it.
So,
Mm.
because we're walking down the street and we're looking at these gorgeous buildings and we want to know what it looks like in there. So, this is an opportunity for us to get inside of these beautiful kitchens and these hidden gems and these amazing women that are living their best French life. And even if someone doesn't want to relocate to France, and even if somebody doesn't want to become a chef, there's something for me so inspiring and magical about that city in particular. It reminds me around every corner that my dreams are not too big.
Wow.
And I love that. I just want to hold space for women to give their dreams some water and sunshine. So we have a lot of time that they can explore the city, but I send them off with a journal and some journal prompts. And we investigate what are these dreams that are in your heart now that you've given yourself this opportunity to pause and this pattern interrupt, and you don't have to think of anything. You don't have to figure out where you're eating, where you're sleeping, who's feeding your kids, who needs to be picked up from soccer practice. You don't even have to look at your map app. You can just follow me. My little ducklings are right behind me, and we have so much time to just follow our bliss in pursuit of beautiful spaces. That gives you a chance to unlock that yumminess that is inside that, sometimes we say, well, later, later,
Yeah.
later, or that's not for me, but I think it's for you. And I believe, if these dreams are in you, these dreams are for you. And I want to hold space for those to get out into the open in a place that's really safe and encouraging and inspiring.
Oh, it sounds so great. I've heard everything. I've I've just enjoyed listening to the heart and the care that you bring to people as well. And just that alone has just been so refreshing for me too. How can people find out more about you? Share with them.
Mm, thank you so much, Candy. It's been delightful to have this time with you. So I'm on all the socials at Phineas Wright House, and that's Phineas House.
Yeah.
The podcast is called Say Yes to Yourself, which I'm clearly doing. So
Yes.
that is, I might say, the podcast is the most fun and fabulous thing of all the fun and fabulous things that I do.
It's
I'm
amazing.
completely obsessed with the woman that I've become in the process of having these expansive, amazing conversations. So I would love to invite any of your listeners to the podcast, and then you'll hear about all the other dreamy things I'm up to as well.
Ah, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed the conversation and just enjoyed learning about all the ways that you say yes to yourself and all the wonderful things that you're doing. Thank you so much.